strife. Who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, make God thy gold refined, till all success be nobleness, and ever again divine. And you know, when I was in school, we used to sing it something like this. Listen here. Oh, beautiful, far spacious skies, far amber waves of grain, far purple mountain majesties, over the fruited plain. But now wait a minute, I'm talking about America, sweet America. You know, God done shed his grace on thee. He crowned thy good. Yes, he did. Heavy brotherhood from sea to shining sea. You know, I wish I had somebody to help me sing this.
Thank you for joining us today. I have the great honor and privilege of leading us into the Pledge of Allegiance. You may stand or you may remain seated. Let's commence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good morning, California Democrats. This is Rusty Hicks, proud chair of the California Democratic Party and a proud veteran, welcoming you to our party's Veterans Day tribute. It's really a day that we take a moment and simply say thank you. Thank you for the service and the sacrifice of every sailor, every soldier, airman, Marine, Coast Guardsmen, and their families who have put on a uniform and served this nation. It's also an opportunity for us to recommit ourselves to putting those words, thank you for your service, into action. And that's what we've got the opportunity to do today. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. And I'd like to give you a quick summation of the great lineup that we have for you this morning. First is going to be Congressman Mark Takano, who is the chair of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. We have our Women's Caucus chair, Christine Pelosi, who is also a vice chair of the DNC's Veterans and Military Families Council. We're joined by leaders in our Veterans Caucus, Chair Jillian Molina Williams and Crystal Jackson, that are going to be having a discussion with a number of the other leaders of our caucuses. Melissa Ramoso, the AAPI caucus chair, Carlos Alcala, the Chicano Latino caucus chair, and Nicole Villaruz, the Filipino American caucus chair. We're also joined by Lindsay Sen, who is the Deputy Secretary for Women Veterans Affairs with the California Department of Veterans Affairs. And I'm really proud to have Hector Barajas with us, who is a former, and I say former, veteran, deported veteran, who's with us to share his really amazing story, and a full bird colonel who's now a member of the California State Senate, Senator Tom Umberg. But to get us started, during the presidential election, obviously we are celebrating the victory of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But during the presidential season, we got the opportunity to see a veteran on the presidential stage, a young post 9/11 veteran, went by Mayor Pete, but formerly Lieutenant Buttigieg. So with that, let's hear some words from Lieutenant Buttigieg.
Hi, it's Pete Buttigieg, and I want to offer a word of gratitude to all of our veterans and service members gathering today with the California Democratic Party's Veterans Caucus. This Veterans Day, as we approach the end of such a challenging year for our country, it's more important than ever to recognize the sacrifices and the commitment of all those who serve in uniform, Americans who stood up to protect our nation and values. As we're looking forward to the promise of a new administration in Washington, it's a healthy moment to recommit to making sure that our veterans who have kept their word to our nation receive the support and the care that they've earned. Also, the community of veterans in America is hugely important in our divided moment, since veterans have the experience of trusting your life to someone sometimes radically different from you, forming connections through shared experiences, something we need more of if our social fabric is ever to heal. This season of transition in the life of our country comes with enormous possibility for the work that we can do together to live up to promises that were part of the founding of America, but that we still have not yet fully been able to meet. The work ahead is going to require all of us, and I'm looking forward to continuing to stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you to build a new and better era for our veterans and military families and for our entire country that we served and care about so much. Thank you for the chance to address you today. Stay well and stay safe.
All right, well, great words from a great veteran reminding us of the great diversity of our armed forces. I know that's a normal thing for us here in California. It's a normal thing across our country, and certainly a normal thing as part of our military. So I want to turn it over to the chair of our Veterans Caucus, Chair Molina Williams, who will introduce our special guest.
Hi, thank you, Rusty. As we honor the service of our veterans and military service members, it is important that we recognize that their contributions to the great American experience. Oftentimes, we forget veterans and military are a microcosm of society. Therefore, it is fitting we honor them not just today, but every day through our collective activism, petitioning our representatives to pass meaningful legislation that will ensure our veterans and military receive the care and services they've earned. It is incumbent upon us gathered here today, veterans and non-veterans, bear witness to the burdens of our post 9/11 veterans and their families are valiantly enduring, waiting upon the Congress to take legislative action. For some, it's too late, but not for those they've left behind, their widows and children. To put the ordeal into perspective, we've been here before. It's reminiscent of the struggles of our Vietnam veterans endured and still do 50 years later. The burn pits is today's Agent Orange, as are veteran suicides and veteran healthcare services. It shouldn't take another 50 years to do what must be done today, now. We have brought together several guest speakers to share with us the status of important veterans legislation remaining in the 116th Congress that can provide the much needed services and programs our veterans need. But it requires that we get involved, taking action by calling our representatives to support these bills as a co-sponsor, if they hadn't done so already, before the 116th session ends. Now I have the honor to introduce our first guest. He was recently re-elected to serve as the representative of California's 41st District and is the chairman of the Veterans Service Committee, Congressman Mark Takano.
Well, happy Veterans Day, Chair Hicks. Happy Veterans Day, Chair Melina Williams. Thank you for having me here to discuss some recently passed or legislation before the Congress. But I want to tell you something amazing just in time for Veterans Day. I want to announce passage of the Compact Act, which was legislation that came out of my committee, the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. It did pass the Senate yesterday, just in time for today. And the Compact Act is the work that we have done to reduce veteran suicide. As you know, the statistics of veterans who die by suicide is alarmingly high. The committee has worked tirelessly to develop and advance a bipartisan, bicameral package to prevent veteran suicide. And the Compact Act is an important step, not the final step or the only step, but it is an important step. And our work certainly must continue to comprehensively reduce veteran suicide by taking additional steps. But let me talk about what the Compact Act that we expect to be signed into law by the president, what it does. The bill contains 9 provisions introduced by both Democratic and Republican members, and it takes a holistic approach to improving care and improving veterans' mental health and well-being. I think the most significant portion of the bill, of this act, is a provision that I put forward, which has to do with access to emergency mental health care. What this act will make possible, once signed into law, is that any veteran, regardless of their discharge status, can call the Veterans Crisis Line. And if it's determined that they're in an emergent situation, that they're in danger of self-harm, they can be referred to care, emergency care, and whether inpatient or outpatient, and know that they're not going to be sent a bill, that they don't have to worry about cost, about taking care of their mental health challenge at the moment, by calling this number. And I'm going to give that number out. It's 1-800-273-8255 and press 1. That's 1-800-273-8255 and press 1. This is a very significant enhancement of access to VA mental health services for those veterans who are in significant mental health episode and need emergency care. The bill will also help us better understand the needs of women veterans, and especially those experiencing homelessness and housing insecurity. It'll help family members understand how they can support the veterans in their lives. It will also review a Department of Veterans Affairs program that contacts and supports new veterans and remind veterans who haven't used VA healthcare recently of the services VA provides. Public health officials really believe that the more our veterans are actually in contact with VA, that risk factors for suicide are reduced. The bill will also ensure that VA police officers are familiar with mental health challenges and competent in critical de-escalation techniques. It establishes an interagency task force to increase veterans' access to our public lands for healing and recreation. And as I mentioned, it does improve access to emergency mental health care. While the Compact Act takes major steps to address gaps in care and intervention, we still can and we must do more to reduce veteran suicide. We need to expand VA's lethal means safety training. We need to address Native veterans' access to culturally competent mental health and suicide prevention care at VA. We need to make sure VA community mental health care providers are trained in military cultural competence and evidence-based treatments. And we need to do more to ensure women veterans and veterans of color have an easier pathway to VA benefits and health care. I look forward to continuing to work across the aisle with our colleagues in the Senate on solutions to improve the quality of life and care for our veterans in the 117th Congress and beyond. Again, bless all of you for your service to our country. And thank you so much. Happy Veterans Day, everyone.
Thank you, Congressman Takano. So much for that update. Our next guest needs no introduction in the caucus. She's a strong advocate for veterans and military families. She's the founding member of the DNC Veterans and Military Council and the current chair of the Women's Caucus. I give you Christine Pelosi.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you for everything that you do to honor our veterans and military families. It's so great to follow Mark Takano, the first openly gay person of color elected from California, and of course, a first to hold that gavel in the Congress of the United States. While we wish we could have won even more seats last week, it's important to note that because you helped us hold the House of the United States House of Representatives, you're holding not only the speaker's gavel, but all those committee gavels and all those subcommittee gavels. And the holders of those gavels, like our good friend and leader, Mark Takano, look like and live like America. That's what happens when you elect the most diverse Congress in the history of the United States. And we know that there are going to be at least 2 new veterans joining the Congress from Hawaii and from Massachusetts, in Jake Auchincloss and in Kai from Hawaii. Also, as we know, Christy Smith is a military family member, and she's holding on so far in California 25. We'll have to help cure some of those ballots to make sure she stays in the lead and is sworn in as Congresswoman. So we are also, of course, thrilled at Mark Kelly's victory in Arizona for the United States Senate. And of course, the fact that America's veterans, active duty, and military family members and their loved ones need our thanks on Veterans Day and on every day. We, the Democratic Party of California, helped lead the way to make sure that the commander-in-chief isn't a draft dodging, benefit slashing, personal insulting person who called them suckers and losers, but instead is a kind and caring military dad, a Blue Star father, commander-in-chief in Joe Biden. And we know that in partnership with our own Kamala Harris as vice president, the Biden-Harris administration is going to be keeping those promises to our veterans, to our military families, and making sure that all of the things that Chairman Takano just talked about in terms of the Compact Act actually get funded and implemented. They're also going to make sure that when we talk about fighting the COVID pandemic, when we talk about fighting the recession or depression, depending on which economic circumstance you find yourself in, and when we talk about renewing the pledge to end the real disgrace of veterans' homelessness in our country, that there will be resources behind the rhetoric, because that's the most important thing that we can do. We started the DNC Veterans and Military Families Council in 2004, right after the loss to George W. Bush. And let me just say, at the time, we didn't have the Supreme Court, we didn't have the Senate, we didn't have the House, we didn't have the White House, and we didn't even have things like Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal, or marriage equality, or the Affordable Care Act to defend. That's where we were in 2004. But we didn't give up, we didn't give in. And part of why we started the DNC Veterans and Military Families outreach effort was because so many people, including John Kerry, had been swift voted. And what we found, and what I think you find in all your service, is that there were a number of quiet patriots who had more of a silent patriotism. They didn't feel that they needed to wear their service on their sleeve any more than they needed to proselytize their religion. And yet, when both military service and religion were proselytized and weaponized against us, we decided we needed to take care of each other. You know, Max Cleland, whom we loved, who was the godfather of this effort, you know, said to us in 2002, when they denigrated his service, he said, people won't believe that. But you know what? They did. And by the time we got to 2006 and started running veterans for office aggressively as Democrats who wanted a new direction in Iraq, Democrats who were voices for peace, Democrats who could separate the war from the warrior, Max Cleland was out there defending others the way he hadn't even defended himself, because he didn't think it was necessary. But he realized when that garbage stays out there in the media too long unanswered, it has to be responded to. So I know that in our great, big, beautiful blue tent here in California and across the country, we, as those who are active with veterans and military family members, are already doing the outreach to talk to people about why they might have split their ticket between Trump and a Democrat, or why they might be Republicans who've come over to Joe Biden, and how we can keep them in our corner. Sometimes it's lonely work for some of you to do that, where your family members are deployed in very, very conservative settings. But I think there's a reason that Joe Biden won the active military vote from what we can see so far. The suckers and losers comment, the attacking of military leaders, the denigrating of military resources to build the vanity wall, the misuse of the Posse Comitatus Act to try to take the military and use it as Trump's own personal army. All of those things were deeply, deeply offensive to people. And of course, when it comes to vote by mail, they are actually with a serious facade claiming that military family members who used APO addresses are committing voter fraud. That's just a disgrace. So we're going to be fighting all of that. There are millions of veterans and military families voting in Georgia in the runoffs. And so we are going to make sure that we are reaching out to all of them and providing this clear contrast to try to make sure that we compete as strongly as we can for those 2 Senate seats for John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock. So again, thank you for everything that you've done, for everybody fighting for equality. The reason that we have Chairman Takano and now President Biden to fully appreciate the implementation of the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the renewal of military benefits, of veterans benefits, is because of the hard work that so many of you did during those darker, sadder times. And so today, it's a new day for us. We should celebrate, and we should remind everybody that we send people out to sacrifice for freedom and democratic elections all around the world. We are absolutely going to demand that Donald Trump and his administration and his bitter clingers have a peaceful transition of power at home. So thank you all for everything that you do. Thank you, veterans, for being voices for peace, for healthcare, for gun safety, and for ending these forever wars and giving us a clear mission worthy of your sacrifice. Thank you so much.
Christine.
Yep. That was awesome, Christine. Thank you so much for reminding us that we are, with the new administration, we are renewed. And with the new commander-in-chief. Thank you so much for all of your work. At this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Crystal Jackson. She currently serves as Veterans Caucus Second Vice Chair and was recently elected to the West Hills Community College Board of Trustees. Dr. Jackson is a Navy veteran and will be moderating the chair's discussion with our fellow caucus chairs. Crystal? Dr. Jackson?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, veterans. Good morning, representatives. It's so great that you took the time today to sacrifice and join in our first Navy program. It's wonderful to see everyone. It's very wonderful to listen to everyone because we have a voice. And we as veterans, we've been put on the back burner too long. And today, you all are to be celebrated. We have, as our chair, we have Madam Chair Jillian Molina Williams. We have our first vice chair, which is Basil Kimbrough. And then you have myself, Dr. Crystal Jackson, who serves as the second vice chair. We have been in some very hard times, and you all know this. And today we can say, I can happily say it's a brand new day. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to our chair, Rusty Hicks.
Right. Well, thank you, Dr. Jackson. Thank you for your service to our nation and the work that you're doing with the Veterans Caucus. I've got the opportunity today just to have a little bit of a quick conversation with a number of our other caucus chairs, and I want to introduce them. The chair of our AAPI caucus, AAPI caucus chair Melissa Ramoso to join us. The Chicano Latino caucus chair Carlos Alcala, and our Filipino American caucus chair Nicole Villaruz. And so what we want to have just a little bit of a conversation, and I want to maybe ask just a couple of questions before we move forward with our program. Each of you represent an important part of our party that really reflects the diversity of California. But in many ways, as you have already heard, our armed services really reflect that great diversity, not only here in California, but across the country. And so maybe I can start with Melissa to tell us about members of the AAPI community that have served in our armed forces and some of the challenges that many of them have had in being a part of a diverse organization and still standing up for core American beliefs.
Thank you, Chair Rusty, and thank you so much for your service. Happy Veterans Day to everyone, and thank you to all the veterans who are joining us. To your question, Chair Hicks, when I think about veterans, I think about, yes, the diversity of our veterans, and the first that come to mind are the Filipino American veterans. And those who don't know the story, Filipino American veterans were promised citizenship benefits after World War II, and including my own grandparents who had served. And it's been a battle till this day that, we were finally in 2016 able to be recognized with the Congressional Medal of Honor. But at that time, since World War II, many of our veterans have passed. So the recognition for our veterans, as I've seen as a legislative staffer and as, someone within my Filipino community, the recognition has come late. But, I'm so grateful that the California Democratic Party has put this issue and our veterans in the forefront, and we're celebrating here today. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Melissa. And maybe I can turn to Nicole. Melissa just spoke about Filipino Americans, Filipino service members who obviously had been promised so much. And once again, our nation comes up short in fulfilling a promise that it's made. Can you shed a bit more light on that?
Yes, I think, thank you, Chair Rusty. I think that, Melissa did touch on it, and what we've all, know in our own Filipino communities and our families is that we just would like the United States to honor the commitment that was promised to them. Over 200,000 Filipino veterans, Filipino soldiers fought shoulder to shoulder with Americans under the American flag, under our flag. And I believe it's out of 66 countries that were allies to the United States, the Filipinos were the only ones that were denied full benefits that were given to other countries that fought alongside us. And so to the Filipinos, it has always been a fight. And we've seen them, they're now in their 90s. Some of them have hit their 100th birthday. And they have waited patiently to be recognized and to receive the benefits that they thought, when they were fighting in World War II, that they were going to receive. So, we have been able to celebrate some of the things, such as the Congressional Medal of Honor in 2016. I was very honored to be able to be part of a ceremony presenting a Congressional Medal of Honor to one of my childhood friends' grandmothers, who was a nurse in the World War II, and who was actually a nursing student in the Philippines and was picked up by the American soldiers. They knew that she was a nurse, and they found her in her house, and her dad didn't want to let her go. But she ended up joining the Army and was a veteran, and we were able to honor her with a medal in 2017, and she just passed at the age of 97 this past June. So while we're able to celebrate and honor our veterans, we do know that there are still many that never received the benefits and recognition that they so deserved.
Yeah, thank you, Nicole. I think in many ways, I feel like, at least in recent memory, post 9/11, the VA and has gotten better about trying to make sure that veterans that are returning get the benefits that they're owed. When you usually come home and you sign that DD 214, they try to at least do a couple of presentations saying, here's what you're owed. Most people are like, man, I'm trying to get my DD 214 and get out of here. I'm trying to move on to the next chapter of my life. Mm-hmm. And then comes back, several, maybe even years later, decades later, and realize that those benefits are really, really needed. And so whether the promise was made 4 decades ago or 4 months ago, it's still a promise that we have an obligation to uphold. I want to turn to Carlos, because obviously when we talk about benefits that service members are eligible for, the same right hand that a young woman or man raises to enlist should be the same right hand that they can raise to take the oath of naturalization. And yet we have seen time and time again, I think on average about 8,000 individuals that are not citizens enlist in our military every single year. And so I know you've been focused in partnership with the Veterans Caucus. Hopefully, can you take a moment and share your work around ensuring veterans who have not been, maybe been deported or haven't been given the opportunity to become citizens, both here in California and around the country?
First, I want to begin by thanking Rusty and also Jillian and Chef Basil and the other officers of the Veterans Caucus. I liked hearing from the Asian American Caucus the facts that they gave us. I want to honor today the 500,000 Latinos that served in World War II, and particularly and by the way, I'm honoring all Americans. We are all Americans, as President Biden says, and I honor all veterans. And if I distinguish a few Latinos here and there, it's because I want to honor them also, not because I honor them exclusively. 500,000 Latinos served in World War II. In the 158th combat, I want to honor my family. My family was in the 158th Combat Division that served in World War II. That General MacArthur referred to as the greatest fighting force in history. I want to also honor the other groups, the 65th Regiment, which was the segregated Puerto Rican Brigade from World War II. I want to honor the 36th Infantry Division and the 88th Infantry Division. Now, the 158th Regiment was largely Native American and Chicano. And they're the ones that MacArthur referred to. Today, Latinos make up 12.5% of all veterans, of all post 9/11 veterans. That's expected to double in the next 10 years. We should be 25% of the veterans in not too many more years because of the number of people that are Latinos that are in the military today, all honorably serving their country. I want to say that we are very grateful to these veterans, all that they've done. Rusty, I can't agree with you more on the concerns that our community has on the citizenship issues for those who serve. We have hundreds of our veterans are just over the border right now. They were deported for all nature of offenses just to get them out of the country. They were deported for DUI offenses, for petty bullshit, and they're all living in poverty on the Mexican border. These are people that risked their lives and were deported by the Trump administration. I don't want to be a grievance caucus, but it's one of the grievances we have. I don't want to go on too much longer. I know we have a long agenda.
Well, I want to thank you, Chair Alcala, for those great words, and certainly Chair Villaruz as well as Chair Ramosa. Thank you for your comments, and I think the message coming out of that you're hearing from all of our chairs, and certainly the work of the Veterans Caucus, is clearly that our nation has made a whole series of promises, and we have an obligation to fulfill them, again, whether they were made for decades, 4 years, or 4 months ago. And certainly look forward to working with all of you. Thank you for your comments. I now want to take the opportunity to turn it back to our Dr. Jackson, who will introduce our next guest. Dr. Jackson.
Okay, there we go. All right. Thank you so much from each and every one of you. I just want to say before I introduce the next speaker, we as veterans, we as fellow service members, we as citizens and the non-citizens, we also have a duty to step up. I take appointments all the time, and the way I pay it forward is those veterans that are not receiving their benefits or they have been rejected, I actually take the time and go over their paperwork and help them to get their benefits, their compensations increased. That is one of the things that I've been doing here in the Central Valley. So we can not just depend on others, we can stand up and bat for them. And I encourage each and every one of us to use that platform that we have. Now, I am going to introduce our next speaker, who is Lindsay Sin from the California Department of Veterans Affairs.
You're on.
Okay, thank you. Hello, good morning. Thank you very much to Chair Hicks and the California Democratic Party, as well as to Chair Melina Williams and the Veterans Caucus for putting this event together today. I'm absolutely honored to be here with you this Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day. So I thought today I would offer some remarks about what the California Department of Veterans Affairs, or CalVet, is doing to serve the 1.6 million veterans of the state. But first, a little bit about the population we serve. We serve more Native American veterans. We have more Native American veterans, more Latino veterans, and more LGBTQ veterans than any other state. We have the second highest number of women veterans and the third highest number of Black veterans of any state in the nation. Our veteran population of the state is extremely diverse. These are just a few of the statistics that we like to track, and making sure that we understand that the needs of one veteran or one group of veterans is going to be unique to that group. And we need to do our very best to serve the unique needs of all of our veterans and make sure that people that have not been recognized in decades previous do get the recognition for their service that they so deeply deserve. Half of our veterans are also over the age of 65, while 10% of our veterans are under the age of 30, and a quarter of our veterans are disabled by their service to some degree or another. That means that we have the added challenges and the added needs to ensure that we're also delivering services and advocating for the needs of veterans across all age groups and across various levels of ability. So CalVet aims to be of service to all veterans, regardless of age, gender, period of service, ethnic identity, etc. And we try and help veterans of all groups to attain a high quality of life, because the one unifying factor among all of us is that we all served in the military and we deserve the earned benefits that we have available to us. So we strive to honor all California veterans by connecting them and connecting their families with their earned benefits through education, advocacy, and our direct services. So how do we do that to meet the needs of such a large and diverse group of veterans here in California? Well, we start by creating a statewide strategy to address the most pressing challenges in California's veterans community. We do this by talking to our stakeholders regularly, such as increasing collaboration with federal, state, local, nonprofit, and community organizations. We also hold annual leadership summits so that we can bring together stakeholders and partners and discuss the best way forward to help all of our veterans here in the state of California. We bridge gaps in services through increased collaboration and outreach, such as our unique team of 8 local interagency network coordinators, or LINKs, who live in regions up and down the state of California and work for our department. These staff work with various VA offices, the County Veteran Services offices, and with different nonprofits to coordinate benefits and services to veterans in each region that they cover. Some span vast areas of the state. Our link alone in Northern California covers 26 counties. Others, including some links in Southern California, handle densely populated areas with huge numbers of veterans and collaborative agencies. We have also expanded our outreach to minority veterans. We've done that by adding staff to the Office for Minority and Underrepresented Veterans, and we've aligned that under the leadership of my counterpart, Deputy Secretary Xochitl Rodriguez Murillo. The division is very active right now and recently hosted virtual events celebrating our Latino veterans and Native American veterans. Likewise, in September, they commemorated the repeal of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell during an LGBTQ virtual event. And tomorrow they're going to hold a virtual event for Sikh Awareness Month, commemorating the service of Sikh American military members and veterans. The division also continues to host workshops to help veterans obtain citizenship, which was the first of its kind program in the nation here in California. We also continue to grow our outreach through my division for Women Veterans Affairs to the approximately 150,000 women veterans here in the state of California, and look to identify their top needs. Last month, we hosted our 9th annual Women Veterans Reception, recognizing 4 outstanding veterans to date. We've recognized over 20 outstanding women veterans with our annual CalVet Trailblazer Award, and we focus on women veterans who represent a diverse population from across the state. We also continue to bring important attention to important issues, such as the continued problem of sexual assault and harassment in the military, and the need for more access to quality healthcare and mental health care, both in the VA and elsewhere for our women veterans. Moving on to the issue of housing, which also impacts women veterans and veterans of color disproportionately. Unfortunately, California has the highest number of veterans experiencing homelessness, nearly 11,000, which accounts for 28% of the national total. Thanks to the tremendous support from our legislature and California voters in 2014, Prop 41 provided $600 million to support the establishment of the Veterans Housing and Homelessness Prevention Program, which we refer to as VHHP. This program has already contributed to 74 developments for a total of 2,624 VHHP housing units across the state. Once constructed, about 78% of VHHP funded housing units will provide permanent supportive housing for veterans experiencing homelessness. VHHP housing units consist of more than 4 walls and a roof, though. These units also provide a safe place for those who have worn our nation's uniform. They introduce life skills training and mental health and substance abuse treatment services to get veterans experiencing homelessness back into a stable living situation. The requirement for this program is that services are provided in addition to the units. So it's not just 4 walls and a roof. And this program also creates a ladder for success in helping our veterans escape chronic homelessness. Our CalVet Home Loan Program is another way we support housing for veterans. We have competitive interest rate loans with little to no down payment, and this allows us to put the dream of veteran home ownership within reach. Last year alone, more than 700 veterans took advantage of this program to purchase their homes. To date, nearly 500,000 veterans have used our home loan program since its inception nearly 100 years ago. On June 2021 of next year, we will celebrate the CalVet Home Loan Program 100th anniversary. Another important effort that allows us to serve the needs of all veterans across our state is the California Transition Assistance Program, or CalTAP, which is also a first of its kind program in the nation. Again, with the help of the legislature in 2017, we launched this program to introduce service members, veterans, and their families to local community-based systems of care and to provide access and connection to benefits and services in the communities where they live. The CalTAP team focuses on contacting and connecting with transitioning veterans and their families early and often to develop a lasting relationship, ensuring CalVet will be there to assist as the veterans' needs change over time. This starts from the day a veteran returns home and will last all the way until he or she needs a final resting place of honor. CalTAP addresses the needs of veterans in transition at every stage of their lives, from leaving service or going to college to starting a family or for preparing for retirement. CalTAP is comprised of a variety of learning formats in addition to include both online and in-person training options. This ensures that our curriculum is accessible both at home and in the community and works with veterans at any stage of their lives, whether they got out 10 days ago or 10 years ago from military service. So working directly with other state agencies and community-based organizations, CalTAP has held 194 outreach events since its inception, reaching nearly 15,000 service members, veterans, and their families. We also know that our California population continues to change in diversity and demographics. According to the Census Bureau, the VA's profile of veterans in 2016 in the state, just 7% of all US adults were veterans, which was down from 18% in 1980. As of 2019, 23% of our veterans served during the Second Gulf War and 16% during the First. In all, nearly 7.5 million veterans served in the Gulf Wars. That follows 6.8 million in Vietnam-era veterans. Most of our World War II veterans are now in their 90s, and of the 16 million Americans who served during World War II, just 326,000 are still living today, and likely fewer than 50,000 of them live here in California. But we continue to serve our elderly and disabled veterans throughout our 8 veterans homes as well. All 5 of our CMS rated homes are at 4 or 5 stars, and our Chula Vista and Yountville veterans homes were just named in the top nursing homes in the country by Newsweek. So of the 2,100 residents that we care for in long-term care throughout our 8 veterans homes, we also unfortunately continue to confront the COVID-19 pandemic. But we're doing well and we're holding the line. At this point, of all of our 2,100 residents, less than 13 residents have tested positive for COVID-19. Sadly, 2 of those residents passed away many months ago, but we're holding the line through our exemplary infection control practices and incredible and dedicated work of our staff. We are seeing the current generation of veterans that come into our care have more service-connected disabilities and more needs as compared to our older generation of veterans, such as World War II and Korean War veterans, which means our services will have to pivot to ensure that we're providing the quality care that veterans with more co-occurring disorders are going to need. But as we look into the future, we must anticipate these changing needs of our veterans and of our transitioning service members and their families. We'll continue to find service delivery methods that are flexible enough to change as the needs of our service members change. So CalVet looks forward to working with all of you to do that, to continue to serve all of our veterans and their families, and to recognize the unique needs that our various populations of military service members have in this great state of California. Now, I'd like to read the Governor's 2020 Veterans Day Proclamation as well at this time, if that's okay.
I'm sorry, Lindsay, can you share with us and we'll share with the audience?
Oh, sure. Can I do that on my screen? I can share, right? Share my screen.
If you share it to India, we will make sure everyone gets it.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that instead. So with that, I look forward to working with all of you. CalVet is absolutely dedicated to serving the needs of our veterans. And we go to work every day thinking it's Veterans Day. We have an incredibly dedicated group of people, an incredibly dedicated leader in Secretary Vito Imbasciani. So thank you again for allowing me to be here, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Happy Veterans Day.
All right, thank you so much, Madam Secretary, for your very comprehensive review of all of the outstanding work that CalVet is doing. We've got a couple more outstanding speakers to share with all of you. First is, I just want to say that what a difference 4 years makes. I remember Veterans Day 2016, shortly after we had experienced what election night in 2016 was. I was at the LA County Federation of Labor, and we had a Veterans Day tribute focused on the plight of deported veterans. And in a very troubling moment for all of us, we were just reeling from what had just happened. We had this conversation about deported veterans, and were able to, at that point, it was like a thing. We Skyped in our next speaker, Hector Barajas, to share with us his challenges that he was experiencing after having been deported, having served in the military and then been deported, and was ultimately trying to come back to the United States. And I remember his words and his steadfast calmness in that moment. A challenging time for all of us, certainly a challenging time for him. And so I'm truly honored and excited to present him here today to all of you 4 years later, to share a little bit about his story and what a difference 4 years makes and his work. So let me turn it over to Hector. Thanks so much.
Thank you everybody for allowing me to be here. I'm actually at the West LA New Directions, and I'm actually, today was my first physical day where I started working working my Social Security in 20 years since I got out of the military. So that was a big step I needed to take to start taking care of myself. I heard somebody talk about that earlier, and also I got my 70%. I'm getting my benefits got increased, so a lot of good things happened lately. But I decided to kind of take a step back from everything that I've been doing lately. But basically, I served in the U.S. military for almost 6 years with the 2nd Airborne. I got an honorable discharge. Unfortunately, after I got out of the military, I ended up being involved in a shooting, and I ended up going to prison for almost 3 years. shortly after doing my sentence, I ended up getting deported after I fought my case for a year, and I snuck back into the country and started a family. We started working for the union actually as a roofer, and made all the way to journeyman. Work got really slow around 2018. No, I mean 2009. And then I ended up just doing odd jobs. Eventually I got pulled over for a fender bender, and I got deported again in 2010. And after that, I ended up basically staying in Mexico and started my advocacy and connected with people like the ACLU Congress members that are speaking today, Nathan Fletcher, and so many wonderful people that were able to bring me home. And and I'm just now starting my life all over again. But I'm blessed that I'm able to help others, and just by being here today and talking to others about my story. There's a guy that's right here in New Directions that's facing deportation as well. And I think this is the moment where we need to continue to advocate for our veterans. And one of the things that came to my mind, and obviously we, out of the state of California, we have Kamala Harris, who's now the vice president, and I'm pretty sure we have very direct connections with her, and we need to reach out to her. And the easiest thing that could be done is to stop the deportations. The bringing back the people home, the deported veterans home, is obviously going to be the harder part. But one of the things that I'm working with another individuals, that we want to start lobbying Congress virtually, like we're doing right now. Like, we're able to connect. We don't have the thousands and millions of dollars like the NRA, but we can set up a Zoom call with a congressman or a senator and reach out to them. So we'll be working on that. And if anybody's interested, they can visit our website, deportedveteranssupporthouse.net, and volunteer their experiences, their talents, to try to get this endeavor done. But definitely we need to reach out to this administration and get things changed. So I want to thank you guys for helping me in my life, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you guys very much. And one of the things I wanted to add is the opportunity for working. When I got across the border, there wasn't a lack of it. Actually, Rusty Hicks that offered me, hey, do you want to work for the union? But I had made a commitment to continue to do this work. And I just, I got lost in taking care of others, and I finally decided to help myself. So I want to thank you guys again. Sorry for being emotional.
No, Hector, this is Rusty. It's quite all right. We're grateful for you. We're grateful for your story and for your advocacy and your work. Your emotion today, I think, has an impact on all of us. A recognition of what the decisions that our government is making is having on the daily lives of millions of Americans, and veterans, and we're really proud. We're proud to be a part of the effort to ensure that you came home. I know that you ultimately were able to come back to the United States through a pardon with Governor Jerry Brown, and now I believe you're in the process or fully a U.S. citizen. I'm not sure of what's the current status at the moment. I know you're on the path.
I'm a U.S. citizen, and
U.S. citizen.
Yeah, and I got also, like, my disability rating went up to like 70, so financially I'm like doing really well, and I might get my 100% in 2-3 weeks. So
yeah. Well, listen, absolutely. Well, listen, we'll let you go. Let you get back to work. But thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate you sharing your story with us and with so many others. Okay. Thanks so much, Hector. We'll talk soon. Now, just to close out our program, we'll turn it over to if anybody has to follow Hector and his story, I think a full bird colonel who's now a state senator, can close this out for this outstanding Veterans Day tribute. Senator Tom Umberg has been doing outstanding work, primarily in doing work in Orange County. Been doing work in Orange County long before Orange County was blue. And so we're certainly grateful for all of his work. Obviously a long history, which I'll let him share with you in the veterans community. So with that, I'll turn it over to Senator Tom Umberg to close us out today.
Well, thank you, Lieutenant Hicks. I appreciate your leadership in making sure that California delivered for the president this year. Also, thank you, Madam Caucus Chair Melina Williams, for your leadership in organizing this today. I think this is really a wonderful opportunity for us to come together to talk about issues that impact veterans and our obligation as veterans. I understand Congressman Takano, I don't know if he's still on, but he's been a great leader for all of us. One thing we all have in common, and was illustrated by Hector just a moment ago, is we all have in common that we took an oath to support the Constitution, and we all have in common an experience of being dependent upon our comrades in arms. And that obligation continues well beyond our time in service. Right now, let's see, right now it is about 2,400 hours in Kandahar and in Helmand, and there are soldiers and Marines who are about to go out on patrol. It's cold, and they're probably frightened, and it's their mission and our obligation to make sure that the compact we have with them is fulfilled. When they come back, the compact to make sure that they have adequate health care, make sure that they have educational opportunities, that they have employment opportunities. That's our obligation. Continuing obligation to veterans here in California, as was mentioned a little while ago, one of the things, just as an aside, that we have an obligation to do is to make sure that the men and women who are in service are free from sexual harassment. So I may ask all of you to help me with a bill that failed that actually provided potential liability to those in uniform who do, unfortunately, harass others. But as we close out today, I think we need to think about our constitutional obligation and our obligation to our brothers and sisters in arms and to each other to make sure that we do our part, to make sure that our leaders adhere to the Constitution. We just unelected a leader who had no regard for the Constitution, had no regard for the separation between the military and the independence of the military and partisan politics. So it'll be our continuing obligation here for the rest of our lives and careers to make sure that's so. So let me finally thank all of you for all the good things you did this year to make sure that we have a president. I said something on chat a little while ago. This is the first president that's had a family member serve in a combat zone for over 60 years. The last president to have a family member serve in a combat zone was President Eisenhower. So I think Joe and Jill, they know what it means to have somebody in service. They know what it means to worry about someone overseas, and they know what it means to have someone come back home and transition back. And so thank you for making sure that we have a president that understands all of us. Rusty, out here.
All right. Well, thank you, sir, for those great words, reminding us of the importance of our work, not only as veterans, but as grassroots leaders and activists, both in our party and beyond. And so that concludes our Veterans Day tribute for the California Democratic Party. We certainly want to wish every single veteran out there a happy Veterans Day. And we thank you for your service. And we recommit ourselves to turning those words into real action, both now and in the future. Thanks, everybody.